Ala had lived her entire life by the sea, in a small cottage perched on a quiet cliff where the wind tasted of salt and memories, where waves whispered secrets of worlds she never fully understood, and where her grandmother's old traditions were woven into her days as tightly as threads in a tapestry. Among those traditions, the strangest was the delicate lantern she lit every year on her birthday at midnight, whispering into it a single wish she always forgot by morning. As a child, she believed this was normal, that everyone made wishes they forgot. But as she grew older, she realized forgetting was not natural. Something happened to the wish every year that erased it from her mind, while making the lantern feel just a little heavier, as if the burden of unremembered hopes slowly filled it with unseen weight. But Ala clung to the ritual anyway, lighting the lantern faithfully, because it was the last piece of her grandmother she still had. On the night of her 22nd birthday, she sat by her window as moonlight spilled like silver milk across the shore, holding the lantern in trembling fingers as she thought about the strange emptiness she always felt after the ritual. She stepped outside and walked barefoot along the cool sand, the lantern glowing softly, its silver frame catching the moonlight in a way that made it look alive. When the clock struck midnight, she lit the lantern and closed her eyes, letting her heart form a wish she knew she would forget. She whispered it into the warm glow, then felt the air change. A sudden gust of wind whipped across the beach, swirling sand into spirals and extinguishing the lantern in an instant. Shocked, Ayla gasped, because the lantern had never gone out before, not once in all the years she'd used it. She looked around wildly, searching for the cause, and then she saw him, a dark figure, standing by the jagged rocks near the water's edge, tall and still as a shadow pulled from the night, his silver eyes reflecting the moonlight and the faint, remaining glow of her lantern. He stepped forward with deliberate calmness, every movement graceful, yet strangely heavy with purpose. "Allah," he said, and the way he spoke her name made her heart lurch, as if he carried it with him from somewhere far away. She staggered back, clutching the lantern, her voice unsteady as she demanded, "How do you know my name?" The stranger, with his midnight hair and eyes that seemed older than the sea, replied softly, "Because I am the guardian of your forgotten wishes." Ayla blinked, confused and disbelieving, trying to laugh off the tension. "My, what?" she asked, forcing her voice not to tremble. The man stepped closer, the moon illuminating. The man stepped closer, the moon illuminating the sharpness of his jaw and the almost ethereal glow around him. "My name is Riven," he said. "Every year, you whisper a wish into that lantern, and every year you forget. But wishes do not simply disappear. They must be carried. They must be guarded. I am the one who has carried them for you." When Ayla stared at him, as if he had lost his mind, Riven continued, "Your grandmother was not merely preserving tradition, she was preserving you. Each wish you forgot, I took. I held it, protected it, lived with it." Ayla shook her head. "This is crazy. I don't know you. You don't remember me," Riven corrected gently. "Because of one of your wishes." Her throat tightened as he explained that when she was very young, she made a wish to forget something so painful it changed the entire path of her life, and that wish erased not just the pain, but someone she once knew deeply. Before she could question him further, the lantern in her hands flickered violently, shaking with an inner force like a trapped heartbeat, desperate for release. Riven's expression sharpened. "One of your forgotten wishes has escaped," he said. "This is why the flame went out. A loose wish can reshape reality." Ayla wanted to run, but something inside, her fear, curiosity, recognition she couldn't name, held her still. When Riven offered his hand, urging her to come with him, she hesitated, but then placed her hand in his, feeling a shock of warmth travel through her body. Not quite magic, but not quite ordinary either. He led her into the forest behind her home, a place she'd walked through hundreds of times, but which now felt different, as if a veil had lifted and the truth beneath it shimmered in every leaf. Fireflies drifted around them in unnatural blue hues, and Riven revealed that this forest was a boundary between the human world and the wishing realm, a place shaped by desires, hopes, and forgotten memories. They reached a clearing, where a swirling orb of light floated, radiating with colors she'd never seen before. Riven told her it was her first forgotten wish, awakening after years of dormancy. The orb cracked open, unraveling into the shape of a small childela herself, at age 5, who looked at her with star-filled eyes and sorrow carved into her tiny face. "Why did you leave me?" the child whimpered. 5. Allah felt her heart break, even though she didn't remember leaving anything behind. Riven explained that this wish was born from loneliness, the wish to never be alone again, and when she later wished to forget, that part of herself was abandoned. Allah knelt and comforted the child, whispering apologies she didn't fully understand, but felt deeply. The child dissolved into starlight, returning peacefully to the orb. As they continued their journey, Riven explained that every wish she forgot shaped him, that he was not a normal being, but one built from the fragments of her heart. they confronted her second forgotten wish by a reflective lake, encountering a monstrous serpent born from her childhood desire to never feel fear again. It represented reckless courage, and she defeated it by accepting fear instead of rejecting it. The third forgotten wish was the most intense storm of overwhelming emotions, representing the love she wished for at 16. That wish had chosen Riven as the one destined for her, binding him to love her beyond his will, nearly consuming him until Isla freed him by releasing the wish and telling him she wanted love by choice, not magic. Their bond deepened after that moment, an unspoken closeness forming in the quiet spaces between battles. The fourth forgotten wish manifested as the sorrowful echo of Isla's best friend, who had died when they were 17. Crushed by grief, Isla had wished to forget her entirely, erasing years of friendship and warmth. Confronting Leora's echo was painful, but Isla embraced the truth, promising to remember her again, the joy and the pain. Riven comforted her as she cried, their connection strengthening as the burden of forgotten memories slowly lifted from her heart. Finally, they reached the last forgotten wish at the peak of a high cliff, where a lone glowing orb hovered calmly in the wind. Riven hesitated before telling her the truth. The final wish was the one she made for destiny, for the person meant for her, and that wish had created him. Riven confessed. He was not born, but made from the essence of her longing. He existed because her heart needed him. But now that all the forgotten wishes had been reclaimed, the magic sustaining him was unraveling. When the final orb cracked open, wind howled around them as Riven's form flickered, pulled toward the orb. He told her he would vanish once the wish concluded, unless she made a new wish. One she remembered, one born not from pain or fear, but from genuine desire. Isla, sobbing, held him tightly and whispered her wish for him to stay, not as a guardian or a creation, but as himself, a person she chose. Light exploded from the orb, swallowing the world in brilliance. When Isla opened her eyes, she was back on the beach, the lantern beside her, glowing gently as if nothing unusual had happened. For a terrifying moment, she thought everything had been a dream until she heard her name, spoken in a warm, familiar voice. She turned and saw Riven standing in the moonlight, no longer shimmering with magic or strange power, but simply human, simply him. He smiled softly and whispered, "You remembered." Overwhelmed with emotion, Isla ran into his arms, and he held her as though he had waited lifetimes for that moment. She kissed him, tasting the bittersweet warmth of all the memories she finally remembered, and all the love she had finally chosen without magic. The lantern flickered beside them, glowing not with forgotten wishes anymore, but with the promise of new ones she would remember, ones she would live, ones she would share with the man who was once her wish, and now was real.